One law that I would highlight is interaction with boldness. And what I mean by that is, if you're feeling timid, if you're feeling that you're not confident in something, you will start a project and it will fail because you feel that way, because you don't enter into it with the right energy. So if you take something and you do something boldly, everybody loves the bold, everybody admires it. Even if it's stupid, even if it fails, it will gain you that kind of attention. When you have sports, you have a game like baseball, it's all statistics and data mostly, right? So, and there's a winner and there's a loser. They won the game 5-0, etc. Okay? So there are parameters. There's very little psychology involved, although in sports and soccer, football, etc., there's some psychology, but a lot of it's just playing and winning. But power isn't like that. So when we elect a leader like Donald Trump over Kamala Harris, you might say, oh, he got more votes. But what is your judgment, your decision on voting for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris? Was it you spent 4 hours with a spreadsheet going over all of their economic policies, deciding this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to benefit me? No. It was based on appearances, on psychology. He seemed like a leader. He seemed like he had more authority. I kind of like his ideas, but you're not going very deeply into it, right? It's his appearance that mattered. CEOs are often hired because of their optics, because it's not based completely on the amount of money they've made. And believe me, I saw this firsthand when I was on the board of directors. People were hired not on their superior track record, but on their political skills. Often. Yeah. So the idea is success, the power game, the laws of power are understanding human psychology. Never outshine the master. You're creating the appearance that you respect the master, that they are better than you, that you are going to obey them, you're going to follow them. You're playing that game. Always say less than necessary. You're wearing the mask of somebody powerful who learns to control their tongue and control their behavior. Court attention at all costs. You know the behavior that will get people to look at you and attend to you. Do not build fortresses. You understand that appearing isolated at somebody is very dangerous. You know how to play the perfect courtier. You create the appearance of power. And that is the power game, is creating the appearance of it. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, of course, results do matter. They do figure into the picture. I won't deny that. But the main part of the game, the main part of the laws, are understanding the role of appearances, being a good actor, and knowing how to manage that properly in a group situation. A lot of our idea of a leader and power is nonverbal stuff. Because as I said, we're an animal, we're a social animal. We don't like to understand that, but it's true. And so a lot of it's the body language. So a powerful person in a meeting is kind of relaxed. They can put their bodies anywhere, right? So other person is like all tight and nervous and aware. A powerful person has a directed focus. A weak person is like always looking around, touching their hair, touching their face. There's a word for it. I forget what it is in nonverbal communication, but it's a sign of insecurity, right? A powerful person is able to look at everybody in the room directly, whereas somebody who's weak is always kind of averting their gaze. There are these signs of kind of confidence and charisma where you feel you are powerful and it emanates outward. Your eyes have that certain gaze. It's unfortunate because for women, it's a little bit harder to play that game because some of the things that read as powerful for men, for women should read as powerful, but often read as she's mean, right? So women have a harder time in playing this game of appearances because they're judged so much on their looks and not about these other things. So it's complicated, but there are these kind of cues that people give off that show that they've inwardly feel secure and powerful, and it kind of emanates outward. There's a law in there, act like a king to be treated like one. If you feel like you're a king or a queen, people will believe that you are, right? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I have the story in there of Christopher Columbus, who was like the son of like a grocer somewhere in like Portugal or whatever. But he convinced all of the kings of Spain that he came from nobility. And it was a total con game, and they believed it. But he carried himself like that. He believed it, and they gave him all this money to go and explore America. That's sort of the iconic story that I use for that. You can to a degree, but at some point it'll catch up to you if you can't deliver results. So if it's all just make-believe, if it's all just hype, if it's all just appearance and optics, you won't get very far because you have to end up producing. And some of the laws are about that. It's not all about that. So plan all the way to the end is about like getting the results that you want by planning all the way to the end. You know, so it's not just faking it. That'll get you somewhere. But at some point you have to produce. Well, it can come from one of two things. It can kind of come from almost a form of insanity where you believe since you were a child that you were destined for something great. I'm so amazing. I'm so wonderful. And you feel it. And it's not completely made up. You actually do get things done. But you have that natural air that like Prince would have, right? The thing is, the best way to cultivate it is to actually have results that show, to actually have a record to go upon. So you can kind of fake it like Columbus did, but Columbus already had achieved some things when he did that. He'd already had some naval skills, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But it's good to have some things to hang your hat on that will help give you that confidence. So it's not completely faked. But William James, the great American psychologist, talked about as-if strategies. And it's a very important concept in psychology from the early 20th century. If you believe as if you are confident, as if you are powerful, it will tend to be read that way, right? And so, like, he had the analogy, if you smile, even though you don't feel like smiling, you'll end up kind of maybe feeling kind of happy. So the physical action will create the psychological action, was his belief, because he was very much a believer in the body, I think starting from the body. So if you believe physically and bodily, embodied, that you are great, that you deserve this, it will kind of become part of your psychology and it will radiate outward. Well, everybody has some good qualities, right? Everybody, I think almost everybody has something that they can go back to in the past and go, I was actually very good at that. That was actually a good moment. I actually was, scored in that particular moment. And you can think about that. I mean, actors do that all the time in movies. When they want to express an emotion, they go back into their past. Like they have to express sadness. They go back and they think about their father or mother who died and they call that emotion up. You can call that emotion up of when you did something actually really great. You might have only been in high school when you were on the sports team and you threw the touchdown or something. Okay, think about that and it'll come back to you. Everybody has something that they can be confident about, I hope. One law that I would highlight is interaction with boldness. And what I mean by that is, if you're feeling timid, if you're feeling that you're not confident in something, you will start a project and it will fail because you feel that way, because you don't enter into it with the right energy. So if you take something and you do something boldly, everybody loves the bold, everybody admires it. Even if it's stupid, even if it fails, it will gain you that kind of attention. And so let's say you're thinking about starting a business. Well, just go ahead and do it and be bold about it and start it and be as dramatic as you can and be as confident as you can. And it creates a self-fulfilling dynamic. People admire it. They don't admire the timid and the insecure and the guy who spends 2 years talking about that podcast he's going to start. They admire that bloke who just decided, all right, I'm going to start it. I don't care. If nobody likes it, fine. You know, everything happened for a purpose. I wouldn't have done anything differently if I had to go back, because it all led to the right things. So if I had been in a hurry when I was 22 to be successful as a writer, I would have never been able to write the books that I wrote. It would have all gone askew. Who knows where I would have ended up. I'm very, very happy with, I don't regret anything. But if you're young, what often happens is, because your life, the pattern of your life, if you think of it as a weaving, is only like, for you, is only like a third woven, right? For me, it's like 2/3 woven, so I can see all of these patterns that you can't see in your life. But at your stage, you tend to think, I've got all of this time ahead of me. I'm so young. I can do this. I can go travel here. I can do this business and that business, et cetera, et cetera. You don't feel that sense of urgency. You don't realize that tomorrow you could be hit by a car. Tomorrow you could suddenly be diagnosed with cancer. People are dying now in their 30s and 40s. I read it can happen. And what it does to you is it says, I only have so much time. I wanted to accomplish this one thing that I've been putting off. Okay, you wrote your book. Maybe there's something else that you've always wanted to do, but you have never done. And you're kind of putting it off. A sense of urgency, a sense that your time is relatively short, is a good thing. The other thing is, it makes, as I said, it makes everything a little more intense, a little more aglow is the word I like to use. So I used to swim like 3 days a week, and I would swim long distances, and I loved it. It was my greatest therapy. I just loved getting out of my head and just being in the water, okay? But I never appreciated it until now when I can't do it. So I want you to appreciate you going to the gym, to having your health, to being able to do these things. Don't look at it like take it for granted. And it pisses me off that young people take all this stuff for granted. They think that I'm privileged because I have this success center. No, when you're young, you have all these privileges. You have your health. You have other things that could be taken away from you. Don't take for granted these things in your life that you have that are not going to last forever. Think in those terms and think of how more intense everything around you becomes when you have that mindset. And the reason I wrote it is I feel like people are missing that now because they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want any pain. And falling for another person and letting go of your defenses opens you up to pain, right? And we don't want to experience that. We want to be invulnerable. It's like cutting off all the richest experiences in life. And so I wrote that chapter addressing that and say, let go of your defenses, let go of your resistance. Let yourself go into that process of falling. Feel what it feels like to have your ego dissolved in the presence of another person and care more about them than you care about yourself. In my dreams, I'll be doing all kinds of weird things. A lot of times there'll be guilt. Like, did I actually murder that person? Are the police actually after me? Damn it, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to my reputation? Then I wake up, So all that kind of stuff happens. But also doubts about myself and depression and I've dealt my whole life with feelings of like not being very worthy. Like even doubting my success, doubting that my work is any good, doubting that I deserve it. I had, a lot of periods in my life where I wasn't successful. And I kind of had it ingrained in me that I could do better, I could do better, I could do better. I wasn't a good parent to myself. I was very tough on myself. And a lot of my dark thoughts are I'm still very tough on myself. And it's like, the other dark thoughts that I have is I can't do the things that I used to be able to do. Is life even worth living when you can't like hike, when you can't swim, when you can't go out on your bicycle when you can't travel normally. Is it really worth it? You know, maybe death wouldn't be so bad compared to that. I go through that, and then I go, yeah, I talk myself out of it again and again and again. But my dark thoughts are about myself and my doubts and about the state of my body as it is right now, kind of thing.